Of the town this afternoon is the local government election. Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News here on News First. You're here with me, Sandro Sathijit. First, your headlines.
No response from Finance Ministry for local government election funds, says the National Elections Commission. IMF insists on creditor assurances to unlock $2.9 billion Sri Lanka bailout. President's Chief of Staff reveals how the government will function after IMF bailout. Turkey-Syria earthquake. Death toll exceeds 21,000.
Sri Lanka's election headquarters.
Now your news in detail. Sri Lanka's Supreme Court has granted permission for the 2023 local government election to go ahead as planned by the National Election Commission.
The Supreme Court had noted that the National Election Commission is bound to protect the people's franchise. Further, the Supreme Court noted that orders were not necessary on the matter as the National Election Commission had already undertaken to hold the local government election in terms of the law. The matter was taken up in the presence of Supreme Court Justice Esture Raja, AHMD Nawaz and Shiran Gunaratna. Accordingly, the Supreme Court bench decided not to continue with the writ applications that were filed by MPs Professor G.L. Piris, Ranjit Madhuba Bandara, Dayasri Jayasekara and M.A. Sumanthiran, who were seeking an order on the chairman of the National Election Commission and the National Election Commission members to conduct the local government election as planned.
The rights of the citizens to cast their vote strengthens further following this verdict. We are getting ready for the election and the people should be prepared to cast their vote on the 9th of March. As an MP, we are thankful because casting your vote is your fundamental right, and we always said it is the Supreme Court that should protect the fundamental rights of the people in this country. We are happy that through the verdict provided by the Supreme Court today, the people's fundamental rights are protected.
All these matters with regard to the holding of the local government election was discussed in the Supreme Court. And the petitioner had wanted this election be held. The elections commissioner comes to court and says, no, we are going to hold the election. So therefore the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that need for a mandamus, a writ of mandamus, that does not arise because the Commissioner of Elections have come and said that he is going to hold the elections. So presently the status quo remains that the elections have to be held. If someone is trying to come and say that there is no money, under Article 104 of the Constitution, all government bodies are bound to help to have the franchise for the elections and to keep the elections. So today, with this decision, with this undertaking, there is no way that the court can give something else because another case has been filed. The court has come to an undertaking, the Elections Commissioner has given an undertaking, they are going to hold it.
The National Election Commission said that the Finance Ministry is yet to respond to its request for funds for the expenses of the local government election for February. National Election Commission Chairman Attorney Nimal Puncheheva, speaking to News First, said that the delay in funding could lead to an issue in making payments for the local government election. Recently, the National Election Commission made an official request from the Finance Ministry to release 770 million rupees for local government election expenses for February.
PAFRO noted that it is not practical for the Elections Commission to make requests for funds from the Finance Minister on a staggered basis.
In order to protect the independence of the Elections Commission, it is imperative to allocate funds yearly than issuing time to time. If it happens, instances such as when the Parliament is dissolved, the Election Commission can hold a general election. As a result, it is not practical to inquire this from the Ministry of Finance. There is no fault in discussing this during this crisis. However, the Election Commission is not bound to act based on the requirement of the Ministry of Finance. Also, the Election Commission does not have any reason to discuss about postponing the election either, because they are bound to hold the elections at the said day based on the election law.
මොකද වුන් බැඳිලා සිටිනවා මැතිවරණ 50 අනුව නියමිත කාලයට මැතිවරණේ තියන්න.
Assistant District and Deputy Elections Commissioners have been summoned for an important meeting on Saturday. The National Election Commission said the meeting will be on the upcoming local government election. The meeting will also discuss the appointment of election officials, designations of polling centres and ballot counting centres. In addition, the facilities required for the postal voting process from 22nd to 24th of February will also be discussed at the meeting.
And in other news, the International Monetary Fund is insisting on creditor assurances to unlock the $2.9 billion Sri Lanka bailout. According to Bloomberg, the International Monetary Fund said its approval for $2.9 billion loan to bail out crisis-riddled Sri Lanka will depend on the island nation securing assurances on debt relief from its bilateral creditors. An IMF spokesperson in a statement on the progress of its extended fund facility to the South Asian nation said that Sri Lanka continues to engage with official bilateral creditors to obtain financing assurances and also continues to advance domestic reforms. He noted that as soon as adequate assurances are obtained and remaining requirements are met, including by the Sri Lankan authorities, the EFF arrangement for Sri Lanka can be presented to the IMF's executive board for approval. The Paris Club, an informal group of rich Western creditors, and India have provided formal support to the multilateral lender for the loan recast, leaving China, Sri Lanka's largest lender, as a holdout. Access to funds will boost foreign currency reserves that are barely above $2 billion and help the nation curb sky-high inflation, steer its $81 billion economy toward recovery after facing the worst recession since independence. And now on to a headline making story. Chief of Staff to the President Sagala Ratnayaka, speaking in Matra, commented on the IMF and the economy.
බොහෝ අය හිතන්නේ IMF එක කිව්වම දැන් ඒකෙන් ඇවිල්ලා අපිට විශාල ධනස්කන්ධයක් දෙන්න.
When we speak of the IMF, many assume that they will provide us with massive amount of wealth to solve the problems. That is not the case. Wise state governance is necessary. Timely decisions will have to be made. What the IMF does is it provides support to prepare the necessary framework for that process. They would pressure us to remain within that framework and would remind us of the issues that would come if we leave that framework. To sustain at the inception, we have to increase the taxes. Why is that fell so much? This is nothing new. We paid the taxes before as well. In 2020, taxes were suspended to a certain extent to keep the promises made during the presidential election. We need to have a tax base, and at its inception, it fell badly. This took place at a time when the people were finding it difficult to cope up with the rising cost of living. However, if we do not engage in this, we will face a severe crisis. We will have to collect taxes until the economy starts to recover.
අමාරු තත්ත්වයකට යනවා. අපේ ආර්ථිකය ආයෙත් පණ ගැන්විලා එනකන් යම් බදු ප්‍රමාණයක් එකතු කරන්න වෙනවා.
Venerable Dr. Walava Hengunabave Dhammaratana Thera, the chief incumbent of the Mihintale Raja Mahavihare, commented on the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
මේ රටේ 134 දෙනෙකුගේ ඡන්දයෙන් ජනාධිපතිවරයා හැටියට පත් වෙච්ච
Wickremesinghe, who was elected by the 134 MPs, wants to use the 13th Amendment and divide the country. Instead of solving all the other issues, we have no issue with the Muslims and Tamils in the country. We are all brothers. Land powers can be given to the governors, district secretaries. However, police powers and judicial powers must only be with the central government. Are they unable to govern 22 million people? If that is the case, they must call for the presidential election or general election and leave. Before delivering a throne speech, he should have responded to the letter by the most venerable Mahanayaka Theros. He deployed thousands of police officers to stop us. We have given him a week to respond to the Mahanayaka Theros.
සතියක් අපි කල් දීලා තියෙනවා. අපිට නෙවෙයි උත්තරේ දෙන්න ඕන නැත්තේ ත්‍රිනිකායක මහා නාහිමිවරුන්ට.
People's Movement for Just and Law-Abiding Society, questioned why authorities have not arrested State Minister Diana Gamage and produced her in court.
රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍ය ඩයනා ගමගේ මහත්මිය බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය පුරවැසිභාවයේ වසන්.
It was reported that State Minister Diana Gamage has concealed her UK citizenship and produced two different birth certificates to obtain a fake passport and committed an offence under Immigrants and Immigrants Act. The CID was informed of this. The case on the matter was taken up at the Colombo Magistrates Court on Thursday. What is the next step in this? State Minister Diana Gamage must be arrested and produced in court. However, the country's Criminal Investigations Department does not have the backbone to arrest her and produced her in court. There are a plethora of instances where a person who stole a coconut from a neighbor was arrested by police and produced in court. There was an instance where affidavits were used to exercise threats because the magistrate made a donation to buy milk.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says a Samagi Jana Balawege government will recover the stolen assets of the country.
Opposition leader attended the public rally in Valimada in line with the upcoming local government election.
මේරට බංගොලොත් කරේ කවුද කියන එක හොඳින් දන්නවා. පෙර පාසල් දරුවෝ වුණත් දන්නවා මිත්‍රවරුනි.
We are all well aware who is responsible for leading this country to bankruptcy. Even kindergarten kids know about it. I would make it clear that all those who led this country to bankruptcy will be produced before the law, and the money that was looted from the country will be recovered and brought back to the country. The money that was looted from the Rajapaksha regime will be recovered and brought back to the country.
අපේ රටට අපි ලබා ගන්නවාමයි කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
And JVP Mayoral Candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council, Mujibur Rahman, speaking in Halsdorf, said it is his vision to create a group of members who would develop the livelihoods of the people.
නගර සභා මන්ත්‍රී කියලා කියන්නේ මේ ලයිට් එක දාන එක නේ. වත්තේ බෝක්කුව හදන එක, වත්තේ සිමෙන්තිය දාන එක. එහෙම නැත්නම්
Municipal councillor is not only responsible for fixing the lights, clearing drainage blockages and setting up drains. The present councillors are engaged in these acts alone. We will not limit our members to these acts, but will make them serve the people to uplift their livelihoods.
මන්ත්‍රීවරු නායකයෝ අපි කොළඹ නගර සභාව වරහා බිහි කරනවා කියන එක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න.
Now, for decades, the people of Samagipura in Sevanagala were suffering due to the lack of access to clean drinking water and were forced to walk miles to obtain water. The village also had a rising number of kidney patients due to this issue, and in order to end their woes, Ganga launched a clean drinking water project for the helpless villagers.
The Samagipura village is home to around 500 families, and it's located in the Sevanagala Divisional Secretariat in Monaragala. The lack of access to clean drinking water was a perennial issue for these people, including those living in the neighbouring villages of Kiribanara and Mahagama. The water available in these areas is high in salinity and is not suitable for consumption. This situation had given rise to a number of kidney patients reported from the area over the years. However, today a new water purification plant was launched at the Samagipura village, ending years of disappointment. K. Sunil Dharmabandhu Senaveera from Atulkote financially supported the project. This project was implemented with the technical support of the Sri Lanka Navy under the directions of the National Kidney Disease, under the directions of the Ministry of Health.
Moving on to other local news, General Sahir Shamshad Mirza, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee of Pakistan, arrived in Sri Lanka for a 3-day visit.
The visiting general and his entourage arrived in the island at the cordial invitation extended by the Chief of Defence Staff, General Shavendra Silva. Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee of Pakistan General Sahir Shamshad Mirza pledged his fullest support to the Sri Lankan Armed Forces. Following a discussion on the serviceability of the Sri Lankan military aircraft, he pledged the fullest support of the government of Pakistan to strengthen the air facility. General Silva was grateful to his visiting counterpart for the extensive availability of training avenues and facilities for the Sri Lankan military officers in Pakistan, and also went on mentioning the further strengthening of ties through military exercises.
The Flight of Independence from the 17th of February.
A religious event was organized at the Ganga temple in Colombo on Thursday in memory of those who died in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria.
A religious event at the Ganga Ramya temple in Colombo invoked blessings on those who died in the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. The event took place under the auspices of the chief incumbent of the Hunapitiya Ganga Ramya temple, Venerable Kirindi Asiji Thero. Turkish ambassador to Sri Lanka, Demet Serkijioglu, amongst others, were present for the event.
Now taking a look at the situation there in the Middle East, the death toll from the Turkey-Syria earthquakes has passed over 21,000. At least 17,674 people have been killed in Turkey, while at least 3,377 are known to have died in Syria.
Save the Children says millions of children across northwestern Syria are in urgent need of food, shelter and warm clothes after Monday's quake destroyed homes and key buildings. The United Kingdom-based children's charity says it has started providing emergency food rations and tents in the area. David Miliband, the president of the International Rescue Committee, a US-based humanitarian aid organization, says that the IRC staff on the ground have described the people of northwestern Syria as having desperate needs as a result of Monday's earthquake. The former senior politician in Britain's Labour Party noted any humanitarian response was also challenging because of the Syrian war, adding that the northwest has been bombed by Syrian government forces and their Russian allies as recently as last month. The director of the Swiss Seismology Service said the region between Turkey and Syria has not witnessed such a big earthquake as the one that occurred this week in the Turkish province of Kahramanmaraş for over 100 years. A mother and daughter were rescued from the rubble after 92 hours during search and rescue operations in southern Kahramanmaraş province.
Coming back to news here in Sri Lanka, Basil Rajapaksha engaged in a discussion with a group of SLPP members on the upcoming local government election.
The discussion was held at the SLPP head office in Nelumawatha in Battaramula and was attended by Minister Prasanna Ranatunga, State Minister of Provincial Council and Local Government Janaka Wakumbura and MP Sanjay Vaidirimana and several other MPs.
We had a meeting with Basil Rajapaksha on raising awareness among our candidates and organising meetings at the grassroots level. We hope to bring everyone in the party together to secure victory in this journey. Now, Ukrainian President Zelensky wrapped up his European tour aimed at securing additional arms from the West. President Zelensky said several European leaders have expressed a readiness to supply Kyiv with aircraft as Ukrainian president wrapped up a rare two-day trip outside of the country to seek new weaponry from the West. There was no immediate confirmation, however, from any European countries of the alleged promises. To date, Ukraine's Western backers have refused to send fighter jets to Kyiv amid fears and potentially escalating the war or becoming further embroiled themselves in the conflict. Moscow has repeatedly warned it will retaliate against any such moves. But the move appeared to have begun to shift during Zelensky's European tour, which began on Wednesday with trips to London and Paris. UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged during the Ukrainian president's visit that the United Kingdom would provide training for Ukrainian pilots on modern NATO combat aircraft. And on to other news overseas, SpaceX has tested the most powerful rocket system ever built, the Starship. Elon Musk's SpaceX company has performed a key test on its huge new rocket system, Starship. Engineers conducted what was called a, quote, static fire, unquote, simultaneously igniting 31 out of 33 Desk. This is Sandro Satyajit signing off. Have a peaceful day.